Hello, awesome people. I hope you're having a great day today. Today we're taking a look at the penultimate book in the Corum series of 506. It's called The Oak and the Ram. It's about 159 pages, so it takes you about, and I divided it into three 50-page chunks. And knocked it out in a little bit less, and in just about, it's about an hour and 20 minutes the first couple of days, and then about an hour for the last one because it was less than a full 50 pages because I've read a few extra pages in each of the previous ones. So it was pretty fast. Read for me, knock out this book for the second time for you folks. It's in the second trilogy that stars Corum, the last of the Vat Hag on this plane of folks, and then he's a different race than the men that call themselves Mabden, and so forth. And he's one of the eternal champions in the Michael Moorcock epic series, where each of these different planes in the multiverse, a term he created, are people that are voyaging out there for the betterment of law against the evils of chaos, in a law versus chaos construction, not good versus evil, but law versus chaos, which became to dominate fantasy so much that later works like the Chronicles of Amber by Roger Zelazny would also embrace it, as well as Louise Cooper that we review for you folks. And it was also even used in the first edition of Dungeons & Dragons, the first role-playing game in the 70s, as the default alignment system of law versus chaos, not good versus evil. That was overlaid on top of the law versus chaos base strategy in the first edition of Dungeons & Dragons. Later on, a couple of years later. So it starts off with law versus order. That's how iconic this series was. The most iconic character in the Eternal Champion series is Elric of Omnibity, who is also a non-human. He is born with a good conscience from a group of evil creatures called the Melniboneans. And he also has a sword called Stormbringer, which is probably more famous than he is. And then so Elric and Stormbringer are key aspects in a big hit during the 60s and 70s, and had a large number of books. So Corum is in that series. In book one, he is attacked. He's the last of the Vat Hag. He's tortured. He loses an eye and an arm before he rescues himself, and then he gains artifact arms and an eye and a hand that are the last remaining things of two lost brother gods that are called the Lost Gods, since nobody knows what happens to them. So he's got this eye and this hand of gods that have been attached to him, and that will definitely level him up, which I think might be Eye of Vecna in Dungeons and Dragons lore. It's in the first edition. There's a book that adds in artifacts, and in the first of the artifacts, there's an Eye of Vecna and a Hand of Vecna. Only those two body parts, and those are the only two body parts that get replaced by Corum, and they also level up, and just like they did with Corum, and level up his power, make him a powerful threat to people. So there you are. So anyway, he finishes the first three books in the first trilogy, which ends succinctly and so forth, and then this trilogy picks up. He's 70 or 80 years after the end of the previous trilogy for you folks, because he's immortal. He can't die except with disease or in combat and so forth like that. So he's just living after his female love, who was a woman of the Mabden race, died, and now he's living. And then he hears some dreams and some callings from some folks, and his companion, Jerry O'Connell, says that these are his wives' people, the last of them for more than 1,000 years in the future. So, starting in about 3 or 4 chapters into the first book of the second trilogy, he moves forward to the future, and then he is going to be fighting the fight up for law in a problematic issue, and that's what's going to be happening right now. Now, set in the future, more than 1,000 years in the future, a lot of stuff has happened to the world and so forth, and some things have changed, and so forth. Anyway, so one of the key things that's going to happen now is that his world's been invaded by these 7 remaining gods from Limbo, called the Foi Maior. There used to be hundreds, but there's 7 of them left. They're diseased and will die in a few hundred years for you folks. And now there are these 6 objects that are the remainings of city treasures that are people that are related to his in the elven worlds. And so he's going to be sent out and so forth to gather these various objects and then bring them in to help in this final battle against the Foi Maior, the 7 last gods of Limbo that are diseased, and then the remaining Mabdens of this continent. So that's sort of the central conflict and so forth that's happening. I like it. I thought that I gave the previous books reviews of about 8 eaches, and I'm going to give the next one 7. I'm giving this one 7.5. It's better than the previous ones. I appreciate that it grew in a couple of areas, but still not as strong as the first 3 books were. For you folks, this second trilogy really deeps itself heavy into Irish mythology. So if you're familiar with Irish mythology, you'll definitely see that being overlaid for you folks. As a reminder, this channel's name is The Worst Thing About New Books. A quote by a French philosopher named Jacques Schubert, who said that the worst thing about new books was that they kept us from reading the old ones. This is definitely some older works for you folks. And then, have you read it? If so, did you agree or disagree with my 7.5? Let's talk about it in the comments below. If you want to talk about spoilers of the ending, let's do that too. If you enjoyed this, why not hit that subscribe button? There's going to be a lot more of these to follow. And finally, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing it and watching my video. We all have so many things that are happening in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.